ayun, notify lang po namin, i-record namin tong discussion, no? And then we will be posting it as well on YouTube after para lang may mabalikan in case maglag po yung mga net natin. And also as an audio episode kasi may Spotify po ang FMA, so you can check that out. Yung title po ng podcast namin ay Anong Connect? So yun, in-explore po namin yung mga issues o usapin tungkol sa ICT and human rights. So this will be one of the episodes as well doon. So yun, nakita niyo po kanina yung video introducing FMA, but you can also visit our website if any one of you are interested na mag-check out kung ano nga ba yung ginagawa namin. Isa sa programa namin ang Gender and ICT program at tinitingnan namin yung mga ganitong usapin, intersecting issues on gender and ICT. So included na doon yung online, no, gender-based violence. And ngayon, andito po tayo sa event. So yung title po nito ay LAPAGAN, Capturing Digital Voyeurism with Philippine Laws or PH Laws. Some of you may be familiar kung ano nga ba or sa ano pinagalingan itong LAPAGAN. So we'll tackle that later kasi we have a guest, Attorney Alex Castro. Siya po ang maging main speaker namin and will be facilitating this discussion. We ourselves are still learning about this topic, to be honest. So parang we're still trying to intindihin kung paano nga ba nakaka-apekto yung technology. Kasi minsan sinasabi nila parang, it's the same. Kung ano yung harassment offline, it's the same online. But then again, we look at cases and nakikita namin na grabe siya. Kasi yung internet, iba din talaga yung nature niya pagdating sa pagiging instrument sa violence against women. So parang ganon. That's why we thought of having this discussion. But before anything else, i-call ko na lang po muna yung program officer namin sa Gender and ICT, si Ms. Tina Lopez, para lang din mag-hi and mag-introduce pa po kung bakit nga ba natin to ginagawa ngayon na usapin. So, good evening, Ms. Teens.
Oo, magandang gabi, Janina and Attorney Alex, no, and the rest of the team na nandito, and of course, our participants. So, before po tayo mag-umpisa, I'd like to greet you everyone a National Women's Month, no? Pati doon sa mga kalalakihan na participant natin na sa tingin naman namin ay allies, no, sa pag-abante ng mga kababaihan sa iba't ibang usapin na panlipunan. So, ano nga ba yung magiging tema natin ngayong gabi? Sa pagkakaalam po, no, ng karamihan na nandito, ang digital voyeurism ay yung tinatawag naming non-consensual images or distribution of images sa online spaces ay talamak sa kasalukuyan. Pero taong 2012, nagsimula kaming magmapa ng mga kaso, particular sa usapin ng online gender-based violence. At over the years, nakita namin talaga na ang mga ganitong klaseng kaso ay pataas ng pataas. At karamihan sa mga biktima nito ay, of course, pabata din ng pabata. At malugod naming tinatanggap, of course, ang paanyaya ng FMA at ganoon din ang partisipasyon ni Attorney Alex para bigyan tayo ng kamalayan at karunungan kung paano ba natin tutugunan ang ganitong uri ng isyong kinakaharap ng mga kababaihan. So magandang gabi at sana may matutunan tayo sa ating tema.
So ayun, before we head on to introducing Attorney Alex, we will just show short video lang din about the house rules for our house. Ayan. So, hope everyone was able to get that. So, very general lang naman po yun na reminders about using our chat box, respecting everyone's privacy, and knowing na safe space naman po ito. But then again, para dun din sa mga kakapasok pa lang, we are recording the discussion and we will be uploading it both sa YouTube namin and as a podcast episode po as a podcast ng FMA titled Anong Connect. So, ayun. I will now introduce yung main speaker namin, which we are very glad to have. We know it's been very busy and alam naman nating lahat na ang Women's Month para sa atin ay isang busy schedule talaga. So, natuwa kami na nag-yes sa invitation si Attorney Alex Castro. Some of you may be familiar na tungkol sa kanya, but I will ask Attorney Alex na lang din to share about her work, ano nga ba yung initiatives ng YASH, and how has it been, paano siya napunta dito sa kind of work na ito. So good evening, Attorney Alex. Kamusta po?
Good evening. Okay naman. Ayun. And thank you also pala for having me, saka inviting me to take part in this event. Ayun, nabanggit mo naman, I'm from YASH, Youth Against Sexual Harassment. Yung YASH actually, very interesting topic to, no? Close to home. Kasi I remember when we formally launched YASH noong 2018, yung first case na hinandle namin ay voyeurism. If familiar kayo, di ba yung nauso before na issue ay yung sa PUA Academy, Pickup Artist Academy. Yun yung marami kaming nakuha mga reports of a Facebook group na nag-share ng mga NCII. So ito, maganda yung topic. I'm very excited actually to discuss yung mga cases that will be presented later. Kasi maganda mapag-usapan yung mga details, ganyan, kung ano yung mga remedies natin in certain cases, sino yung mga pwede nating puntahan, ano yung mga pwedeng services na i-avail for mga survivors, mga ganyan. So maganda siyang topic. I'm also aside from yung YASH, I'm the current president and the founder of YASH, by the way. But aside from that, I'm also a litigation lawyer. So sa firm, we handle a lot of women's and children's cases. Marami mga ganito na mga sexual violence cases, whether it's offline or online, no? So maganda rin na mapag-usapan yung mga, kanina yung mga legal remedies, ganyan. Ano ba yung mga itsura? Paano nahahandle yung mga kaso? Anong itsura niyan pag nasampa na sa korte? Paano siya hinahandle ng court? Gaano ba yan katagal na re-resolve? Ito yung mga usual questions ng mga legal. So yan, we'll go to that later. But yeah, that's me. And thank you ulit for inviting me. I'm excited to take part in this.
Yes, good evening din po and thank you din po. So ayun ang na-mention na ni Attorney Alex kung ano yung mapapag-usapan naman talaga natin. So ano din yung magiging direction no nito. So that's why siguro okay din i-mention lang namin, no? That's why we're really interested na invite dito yung youth and even people who respond to cases of online gender-based violence. So that can be like anti-sexual harassment offices ng schools or maybe even just like volunteer groups that we see online. So again, good evening to everyone who's here. So hindi na kami magpapaano, no? We want to delve into the topic na mismo and ask Attorney Alex, ano nga ba yung sinasabi nating digital voyeurism? So nasa title na siya, no? Digital voyeurism. Pero ano nga ba siya? When I encountered this word, medyo it feels kind of foreign. Hindi naman talaga natin exactly matranslate ito to Tagalog to Filipino. Pero ano nga ba sa inyong experience? Paano niyo po ma-explain yung digital voyeurism? At ano yung relation niya dun sa tinatawag na non-consensual intimate image?
Well, I'll explain yung itong digital voyeurism, no, as a legal concept. Siguro under the law, defined siya as yung non-consensual na taking of photos or images, no, videos ng private parts ng tao, or pwede rin of taking of yung videos or photos of a sexual act, na again, nabanggit ko kanina, non-consensual nga. So, pero ito siguro yung pangalawang aspect of digital voyeurism ay hindi masyadong alam ng mga tao, ay pwede rin yung may consensual ang taking ng photo or video of private part or sexual act, but yung copying, reproduction, posting, sharing nitong photo and video na to ay non-consensual na. So mamaya mapag-uusapan na ano ba yun? Punishable ba? Same penalty ba? Anong pwedeng gawin pagka ganon? Kasi 'di ba ngayon uso na yung mga cases na pwedeng ganon. Consensual, isesend ko for example sa partner ko ang isang intimate na photo, pero pag yung mga ganyan, yung mga blackmailing dito na papasok, pag nag-break ganyan, na blackmailing na ipopost ko ganyan, yun non-consensual na. That can also be considered as digital voyeurism. But just to clarify also, because we'll be tackling other topics or other legal concepts or mga crimes later, no, not just digital voyeurism. This is just one part of yung mga set ng laws natin protecting women from cyber violence. But I think ito talaga, yung digital voyeurism ay yung pinaka prevalent during this time, especially in the age of social media.
Yeah, ayun. I was just curious kasi na-mention kanina we're still learning about this topic, and sa work namin parang may pangangalabit din na is this what we can say revenge porn? Kasi we're hearing din na parang you can't really call it revenge porn. What do you think about that po?
It's the same. Yung nabanggit ko kanina, 'di ba? Na two acts kasi yan na punished under the Anti-Photo and Video Voyeurism Act. It's not consensual taking of photo and video, or consensual taking of photo or video but not consensual sharing, copying, reproduction of photo or video. So pwedeng may mga ganon na I think yung revenge porn ay papasok na yun dun sa pangalawang prohibited act, no? Na kahit na consensual naman itong pag-take ng sex video, for example, once na ito na yung may nangyayari dun sa relationship na siguro nag-break eventually, tapos blackmailing, ganyan, masama yung loob, tapos dito na gumagamit ng revenge porn, dito na papasok yung non-consensual sharing. So it's still digital voyeurism. It's still punishable under the law.
I see. So it really has ang laki ng something to do here with yung intention tsaka motivation then with when committing the act. One of the sorry na add ko lang kasi I remembered when you were sharing na yung revenge porn, then parang others don't want to use it because it's not actually pornography, like it doesn't exist daw para daw sa pleasure ng ibang tao. So they don't want to use the word revenge porn and all that. So parang yeah, very enlightening. At least meron din, nakakita din natin kung paano din tinitingnan ito ng batas din ngayon, na meron ngayon sa Pilipinas. So ayun, thank you for shedding light on that. So mag-proceed na po tayo sa unang case, no? So babasahin ko lang po as we flash yung first case. So again, ito po yung itong cases na fina-flash natin, ito po yung namapa ng FMA. Nabanggit kanina ng program officer namin, si Ms. Teens, na nagmamapa kami ng mga cases ng OGBV, online GBV. No? So lahat ito ay galing po doon sa aming initiative. So this one, ito po ay galing sa Sunstar na report. So it's titled Man 19 Nabbed for Blackmailing Girl. So ito po ay in Cebu City. So there's a 21-year-old woman named Alexa, so that's not her real name, at nag-start sila mag-message each other via Facebook. The guy was using a pseudonym. Soon in their conversations, the guy began insisting that Alexa send nude photos of herself in exchange for money. As she needed the money to pay for her college education, Alexa immediately grabbed the opportunity and sent her naked photos to him. After sending, Alexa was surprised to find that the guy had blocked her from messaging him. Then, on Sunday, Alexa suddenly received a message from an anonymous na tao who sent her yung images mismo of her na naked. So the unidentified person also messaged Alexa that she must agree to have sex with him or he would post the photos on social media. He also warned Alexa that she must decide before Monday morning or he would post the photos. So ito yung unang kaso natin, Attorney Alex. If I were the victim survivor in this case, paano ko po kaya sisimulan yung pag-respond sa ganito?
Sige, I'll start first with yung mga possible laws that we can resort to, no, pagdating dito sa particular case na to. And then we can go later dun sa how they come into play, paano yung anong considerations, yung risks involved, no, pag pumipili ka ng crime na i-charge. So ano ba muna yung mga na-violate dito? First is of course yung nabanggit natin kanina, violation of the Anti-Photo and Video Voyeurism Act. Dito kasi 'di ba ay I would say consensual yung taking of the photo and the video, or the photo rather, and then sharing it kasi it was for consideration, it was for money. So ano naman, hindi naman yun non-consensual yung sharing niya. But ito mukhang na-copy, na-reproduce, no, na-share online itong photo na to of her. Yon ay ano na, non-consensual, so violation pa rin siya of the Anti-Photo and Video Voyeurism Act. Ito pala, just to clarify, under that act, yung Anti-Photo and Video Voyeurism, hindi lang yung reproduction or yung sharing, no? It's the copying. So having a copy of that photo or video without the consent, that's a violation of the act na in itself. And then what else aside from Anti-Photo and Video Voyeurism? Grave threats, ano yon? Dito napapasok din yung pinipilit siya nitong unidentified person to have sex with him. Otherwise, ipopost yung video, yung photo online. What is grave threats? Under the law, it's basically forcing, intimidating anyone to do something na against their will. Tapos parang ang kapalit nun, kung hindi mo yung gagawin, ay gagawan ka ng masamang bagay amounting to a crime. So dahil dito, 'di ba, ang gusto niyang gawin ay pipilitin ko siya. So bina-blackmail ko siya na have sex with me, or kung ayaw mo, ipopost ko tong photo mo online. So kita natin that amounts to a crime kasi if you post it online without consent, it's a violation again of the Anti-Photo and Video Voyeurism Act. And then you're forcing someone through itong threat na to, na kapag hindi mo to ginawa, ipopost ko to online, ay again, grave threats na siya. That's also punishable under the law. So that's number 2. Yung number 3 mo, ito ano lang ha, outside of this situation, but let's just, ano yung mga pwedeng puntahan pa. For example, if natakot talaga si Alexa, hindi siya aware na ito ay grave threat, na punishable siya under the law, na just to protect itong photo niya, para lang hindi siya ma-share online, ay pumayag siya. For example pumayag siya na makipag-sex dito sa unidentified person. That can be considered as rape also. Kasi if you take a look at it, ay hindi naman siya consensual talaga that she wanted to do it, but because she was intimidated into doing it, dahil nga threaten siya, then that can still be considered as non-consensual, therefore it's rape. So ano ba yung mga, just to explain also, what is rape ba? Under the law, there are 2 kinds of rape. Yung tinatawag natin, yung number 1 ay yung rape through sexual intercourse. Ito very limiting siya in a sense na it can only be committed against a woman because element dito sa first kind of rape ang vaginal penetration. So if you have sexual intercourse with a woman, vaginal penetration, may vaginal penetration and then non-consensual siya, that's rape. Meron tayong tinatawag na pangalawang klaseng rape, yung rape through sexual assault. Ito, any form of rape other than sexual intercourse with a woman or other than yung vaginal penetration. So for example, pwedeng against a woman, pero hindi siya vaginal penetration, penetration siya of some other orifice, no, sa katawan, anal orifice, for example, ay that's considered as sexual assault, rape through sexual assault. Yung mga rape then committed against biologically male persons is also rape through sexual assault. Kasi again, hindi naman pwede yung vaginal penetration sa kanila biologically. So pwede rin yon na if ever pumapunta doon because of this, yung pag-threaten sa kanya. What is the third one? Yung sa, ano na to ulit? Post photos on social media. Cyber, sabihin natin, hindi lang photos. If video ang involved dito, or if this person was forced to perform cyber sex with him, hindi yung physical sex, it can be considered a violation of the Anti-Cybercrime Prevention Act. Ano ba yung ano yung punishable act under that? Pagka, for example, if you force, you don't even have to force. Maraming criticisms dito sa provision ng Anti-Cybercrime Prevention Act because what if, di ba sinasabi natin, sex work is work? Ano pagka, kunwari, consensual, ganyan, ang cyber sex for consideration, under the act kasi, any cyber sex for consideration is prohibited. It's prohibited under the law, it's unlawful, it's illegal. So kahit na consensual siya, but as long as it's for consideration or money, ay punishable siya under the act. So dito kasi, paano pag tumuntong tayo doon na yung pagpupersa sa kanya, no, to have sex is done online or through cyber means, ay pwedeng ganon. Pwede siya mag-fall under that. So again, meron tayong 4 laws na nakikita kong nasasagi nitong scenario na to. First is the Anti-Photo and Video Voyeurism Act for the non-consensual sharing or copying of the nude photo. Yung pangalawa ay grave threat, yung threatening to post a photo online for this person to have sex with you. Yung third is rape in the event that something happens. Physically, no, na pumayag siya because she was intimidated into doing it. Yung fourth ay the Anti-Cybercrime Prevention Act if itong sex was done online. So, mali pa rin siya. So, ano ba yung mga, ito na yung mga 4 available remedies, no, charges na available dun sa survivor. But ano ba yung mga usual considerations in cases that we've seen, no, like this? Ay minsan, actually, I've seen a case like this. Kaya I wanted to clarify, no, na in the event na pumayag, for example, para lang ma-prevent yung posting ng photo online, it's still considered rape. Because in that particular instance, the girl was actually intimidated into doing it. So, yon. I needed to clarify that. Tapos ano ba yung mga other considerations? Mga services also. First thing that we ask also, yung survivor, pag tinatanong kami ng ganito for legal advice, aside from the remedies, ano yung remedies outside of the law? Services that you can avail of. Importante, number 1, if we go through any experience similar to this, ay yung psychosocial na services, no? Psychological first aid. This is a very traumatic and heavy experience na talagang mahirap pagdaanan na any survivor. So it's important that you couple any legal service or any legal remedy with other services, psychosocial services available. So maraming mga nag-offer nito. One partner that we had recently was Luna's Collective. They offer psychological first aid or yung Kerry in UP Diliman. You also have social workers who offer this kind of help, no? And also yung mga public hospitals, they have available psychologists. Pwede rin tayo lumapit sa kanila. One other concern that survivors have is, na-share na, mukhang nasa-circulate na yung picture ko online. What do we do about it? Ito mahirap talaga. That's why ang hirap pagka may cyber aspect na siya, yung crime. Totoo yung sinabi mo kanina hindi siya pareho. Of course, it's still harassment, but practically and logistically, it's more difficult to deal with cyber crimes than yung mga physical crimes. Kasi ang lawak na eh. There's so many things you can do with yung use of ICT, Information Communications Technology. So yun yung concern. Paano ka nagsa-circulate na online? What can you do? Number one, remedy that we can suggest, you can always refer the survivor, or yung survivor can always go to yung PNP or NBI. They have cybercrime division groups that can help track, especially dito, unidentified person hindi natin kilala. They can help you track kung sino ba ito nagpapakalat, sino bang nang-threaten, ganyan, if wala tayong identity. Ano pa ang mga pwede? Si Thina and I were talking about this the last time, there are also yung mga social media platforms are starting to come together to create tools for survivors to be able to use in case na merong NCII na kumakalat. Yung isa dyan ay yung na-launch ng Facebook or Meta recently, yung stopncii.org. That tool can be used to track yung photos na kumalat dun sa platforms nila, for example, like Meta, IG, WhatsApp, yung mga hawak ng Meta na mga social media platforms. Pwedeng matrack yung picture and then the social media platform, the company will take it down. And then it will prevent yung further spreading or sharing of the photo online. So, ano yung mga confidentiality considerations? Ibig sabihin, I need to upload my photo dun sa stopncii.org or dun sa tool to be able to take it down. We've clarified this. The tool does not collect data or does not store copies of the images or the photos. It creates a special hash for the photo, para matrack niya across its platforms and then to take it down and then to prevent the uploading. Yung downside lang nito is that not all social media companies or platforms already have this. But this is a good start, it's a good model to have. So that's one tool also. So yon, for this particular case, those are your legal remedies. Yun din yung mga pwedeng i-explore for psychosocial services, and then yung mga extrajudicial or out-of-court na mga remedies na kailangan natin, for example, to help the survivor take down the photo or to track kung sino man yung gumagawa nito.
Thank you so much, Attorney Alex. I'm just taking a lot of notes, and so far na-settle talaga yung ano nga ba yung parang legal environment around dealing cases like this. So we have like up to 4 parang legal remedies. You also had yung outside of the law. So you have siguro ay lumapit din sa mga organizations who respond to this, mga na nag-offer ng psychosocial interventions, for example, and even for social media. And it's ang interesting po na na-mention niya din yung about sa confidentiality of this, because like I think it looks like a really interesting and important information, kasi I think may mga fear din na parang i-report ko nga yung case ko pero kailangan ko rin i-upload the very photo na I want taken down. So ayun, yun, merong general background din on what we can do. Pero ask ko lang before we siguro head on to the next case lang din, Attorney Alex, if plano ko po halimbawa ako mag-pursue na ng legal action, what do I need to have pag ganito?
Sige. Siguro explain ko muna yung steps, yung process on how to file a complaint. First is, of course, you need the narration. Yung narration ng survivor, and then you need to turn it into a complaint. Minsan naman, especially if you go directly to the PNP or the NBI, they can help you do this. Yung pagkuha ng salaysay ng mga complainant, nagagawa nila yan. Or outside of the PNP or NBI, you can always go to any lawyer who can assist you in drafting a complaint. Now, ano yung mga kailangan nilalaman ng complaint? Basically, it's just a narration of what happened, ano nangyari, kailan, ano yung offense na na-commit against me. Kahit hindi yung legal definition na someone committed a violation of this particular act, hindi kailangan ng ganon. Kailangan lang ng particulars na ito, like how this case was presented, na on this day ganito. Tapos, hiningan niya ako ng nude photo and then tinrete niya ako, ganyan. Pwedeng ganun lang, ka-plain and direct to the point na narration that can already be considered as a complaint. And then we file it with the Office of the City Prosecutor. Common questions that we have, what kind of evidence do we need to file? Ito, important, yung resibo talaga. If maka-encounter tayo ng cases na ganito, we really need, if may makunan kayo na screenshots, ganyan. Although ito, sensitive topic because potentially you'll be taking screenshots of an NCII. It doesn't have to include that. Pwedeng yung mga surrounding circumstances, for example, screenshot of the conversation, bearing the threat, mga ganon, or any other thing, mga videos that you have, pictures. If walang ganon, it would really help But if walang ganon, wala tayong nakuha screenshot, wala tayong record, hindi natin kailangan mag-alala because in most cases, yung narration, the sole narration of the survivor is enough to file a case, and then most of the time it's enough to even convict in a trial. So basta yung judges naman are trained to check if yung testimony ng witness, ng complainant is truthful, it's candid, ganyan, na nagsasabi siya ng totoo, nakikita nila yon. So minsan kahit wala tayong mga written proof or evidence na mga tinatawag natin, that's fine. But it will greatly help if we have these. So kung meron tayong mga suspected cases, it's important that we take screenshots or we get records of it. Wag lang siguro yung material itself, yung photos, kasi pwedeng unlawful yung possession of that photo. Kasi di ba nabanggit mo nga kanina yung mere copying or reproduction is prohibited. But you can always take screenshots again of yung mga surrounding na conversations, mga posts, captions, and so on.
All right, okay. Thank you so much po sa pag-shed light on that. All right, so ayun. Medyo na din yung details about it. At least we have parang steps na on what we can do, no? So yun thank you for shedding light on dito pa lang sa first case. So I'll head on to the next one na. So this one naman is another report, no? So it reads here. So ayun, one day the PNP received information from the USA Federal Bureau of Investigation, so FBI, that an American national that they arrest. Oh, okay, sorry. So FBI nag-arrest sila ng American national on suspicion of facilitating quote-unquote cyber sex crimes involving minors, and has a possible cohort based in the Philippines. So upon investigation, they traced the online child sexual exploitation materials, or CSEM, to a household in Bagong Silang, Manila, headed by a 39-year-old woman. The police rescued 2 girls, so both are minors, and were taken to a designated shelter to undergo necessary trauma-informed care for child survivors. So this one, Attorney Alex, you can go ahead and share your insights po about this one.
For this one, I think it's very straightforward. Yung possible dyan, nakikita ko dalawa. Yung first is yung child prostitution or trafficking under the Anti-Child Abuse Act. Yung second is pwedeng rape. Let's go into the first one first. Yung sa una, yung child prostitution or trafficking, it's very explicit naman, no? Any act of, for example, recruiting children or holding them in an area, in a house, for sexual, yung prostitution purposes, yung child prostitution, that's punishable under the law. Punishable up to 40 years imprisonment, pwede. Or child trafficking, for example, yung pagbebenta ng mga bata or forcing someone to bear children para meron silang matatraffic, ganyan, for purposes of, child prostitution, it's punishable. Yung second na nabanggit ko, ito pala, yung sa child prostitution or child trafficking, marami dyan na covered acts. It's not just possibly itong 39-year-old woman that's liable for it. Pwede rin yung mga anyone who is advertising itong child for that purpose, yung mga peddlers, ganyan, they're also liable under the act. Yung second na nakikita ko is rape. it's still in relation to the Anti-Child Abuse Act, and kaya nga child prostitution, no? We assume that there's sexual activities involved. Yung rape, notably, di ba recently the law was passed increasing the age of sexual consent to 16. So yung sa ano naman, rape, again, any form of sexual nabanggit ko na kanina, ano yung mga rape, what can be considered as rape. But the notable thing is, in relation to this particular case, if it's against a minor, it will be in relation to the Anti-Child Abuse Act, and then may additional tayo na if this is committed against any child under the age of 16, automatic siya statutory rape. What does that mean? When we say statutory rape, it means we do not even have to prove consent or lack of consent in trial. Basta under age of 16 rather, ay diretso na to. Automatic ay walang consent yan. Kahit ano yung nangyari, kahit pumayag siya, sumama siya, hindi yan consent. Ano na yan? Rape siya agad. So pwedeng itong dalawang to, yung covered nito. And then notably under the Anti-Child Abuse Act, may mga indicators kasi placed by the law para ma-check natin kung may persons ba attempting to commit child trafficking or child prostitution. Under the law, even yung act of, for example, merong adult na hindi relative ng bata that is found alone in a secluded area, for example, in a room, an inn, a hotel, that can be considered as an attempt to commit child prostitution or child trafficking. Or if merong mga bata employed in yung mga service sectors, like for example, bathhouse, massage parlor, yung mga ganito, pag may mga batang involved, meron din yon. The law presumes that there is an attempt to commit child prostitution or child trafficking. So may mga remedies na yan agad. Ibig sabihin na cover siya agad under the Anti-Child Abuse Act. And then one good thing about this law is that in most crimes kasi, it's the survivor that needs to file the complaint herself or himself. But in this case, maraming mga pinapayagan yung batas na mga tao na para magsampa ng kaso, hindi lang yung bata, pwedeng yung magulang, pwedeng DSWD worker, social worker, pwedeng yung barangay captain, pwede nga kahit 3 concerned and responsible citizens in the area kung saan nangyari yung krimen. So pagka may nakikita tayo na ganito, that's why it's very important that we stay vigilant. Kasi we actually have the power to file complaints for mga possible na survivors of this crime. So for example, may nakikita tayo na ganon. Yung nabanggit ko kanina, di ba? The law presumes na kung may nakita tayo na parang wait lang, hindi na kamag-anak yon, may kasama siyang bata in a secluded area, we can already file a complaint, 3 persons. Kahit hindi natin kilala yung bata, unrelated tayo dun sa bata, hindi tayo magulang, hindi tayo relative, we can file the complaint. So we need to stay vigilant kasi the law gives us that power to protect children even if we don't know them. We just need to look out for yung mga ganong signs. And then, yan, yung mga, ito yung options natin, no, under the law, yung mga remedies. And then, maganda yung Anti-Child Abuse Act because marami mga other provisional remedies afforded dun sa survivor. Isa yan, yung mga trauma-informed care, pwedeng yung custody ng bata ay binibigay mo na sa DSWD, confidentiality, dun sa pag-handle ng case mismo from the filing of the complaint up until trial ay nire-redact yan yung pangalan ng bata. Pagka nagta-trial ay closed room yan, hindi pwede ang media or anyone. And one more notable provision pala under the Anti-Child Abuse Act is that yung media, if there are any reporters or publishers, mga writers, writing on this, na sensationalize yung case, meron silang nalabas na information dun sa bata, precisely because we're trying to protect nga, di ba, the privacy of the child. If ma-violate nila yon in any way, that's unlawful under the act that can be punishable. So ito yung mga remedies afforded dun sa survivors in this case.
Thank you so much, Attorney Alex. Sorry, I just have a clarification. You mentioned kanina na concerned citizens can also file a complaint. Sa city prosecutor din po ba ito, like the ones before, or where can they go po?
Yes. All complaints are filed with the Office of the City Prosecutor. Lalo na yung mga grave. Meron tayong 2-for-1 rule dyan eh. I won't go into that, pero what I can say is yung mga malalaki, yung matataas yung mga penalty, it needs to be filed. All complaints need to be filed with the Office of the City Prosecutor. First, kasi magpe-preliminary investigation muna sila, meaning they filter complaints. The fiscal or the prosecutor, they need to see first if may probable cause to elevate this complaint to the court. Pag wala, mukhang gawa-gawa yung complaint. But again, very rare instances yun, no? But in that event, let's say, na gawa-gawa, mukhang walang probable cause, mukhang hindi nangyari, nagde-dismiss yung fiscal para hindi na maklog yung courts ng mga kaso. So all complaints will go through the OCP, the Office of the City Prosecutor. Even if you go to the police, yung Women's and Children's Desk, tapos nag-file ka ng complaint doon, yung police, fina-forward din yan sa OCP. It's the OCP that conducts, again, the investigation before an actual criminal case is filed with the court.
All right, thank you so much. So ayun. So kanina na-share kasi yung about what we can do if kami yung victim survivor, and then we also go into basically yung role din ng community, no, as a concerned citizen. We also have in a way a role on those grounds. So ayun, we have how to file a complaint kanina na mention, and then now yung process, no, of what even the Office of the City Prosecutor does sa mga ganitong kaso. So ayun, thank you so much. I would just like to remind everyone who's here again, good evening and thank you. If you have any questions, we will have a Q&A portion po mamaya. So please do ask away sa chat box po. Or maybe later you can also ask na mismo na naka mic on. So ayun, I just want to remind everyone. So we will now move on, no, to the next case. So I will read another report that we also mapped. So yan, ito naman. So yung title niya, no, is Actress Kinilabutan, Peking Sex Video Ginamitan ng Deepfake Technology, no. So I'll just go through this one. So the third case reads, an actress saw a deepfake sex video of her after a fan tagged her on Twitter about it. So the actress denied that she was the one on the video and immediately reported it to her family and yung management niya. So nag-release din ng statement yung management niya. At ito yung banggit nila, the public is warned not to post, share, or otherwise circulate the video. We will not hesitate to take appropriate legal action against any person circulating the materials. And we intend to hold these individuals liable for the damage they caused. We remind the public to be more discerning of the content they see online and to help us take down this voyeuristic and defamatory content. Rest assured that we are taking all necessary steps to hold the individuals involved accountable, and we are coordinating with the proper government agencies to remove this content. So ayun. Sige, Attorney Alex, you can go ahead for this one. I'm not sure if this is more complicated or easier ba ito sa eyes of the law?
No. This is actually, ito yung out of the 5 cases, no, this is my favorite kasi this is the most complicated, I think. I say most complicated only because I don't think, I have never seen personally a Supreme Court case on this. Pakiramdam ko kasi very new, relatively new, no, ang deepfake technology. And yung laws natin crafted to combat digital voyeurism and any form of it ay napasa nung time na hindi pa ganun kasikat ang social media. So we've seen very few cases of this na merong na hindi ikaw talaga yon, pero ginamit lang yung mukha mo to make it seem like you. So I have my legal conclusions about this, kung ano yung mga possible cases that we can file. I'll share it. Yung first is still a violation of the Anti-Photo and Video Voyeurism Act. I would argue this because again, nabanggit natin kanina, what that law tries to prevent, no, is yung taking, non-consensual taking of a photo or video of a private part or sexual activity of any person, and the non-consensual sharing, reproduction, copying of the photo or video. Meron kasing, I think the intent din talaga is to protect the privacy of a person. So kahit nasabihin natin hindi talaga ikaw yon, hindi mo katawan yon, pero mukha mo kasi yun eh. Tapos sinishare siya as you. I think that's still a violation of the Anti-Photo and Video Voyeurism Act, because it doesn't matter, no, if your real privacy or yung real privacy mo to your body and your sexual activities, if it's that one being protected, or in the eyes of, alam mo yun, other people or viewers lang, that's you. I don't think merong substantial difference between the two, because it's being connected to you. Alam mo, mukha mo yon. So it doesn't matter. So I think it's still a violation of the Anti-Photo and Video Voyeurism Act. What other things can we file? Pwedeng libel, cyber libel, but I think I'm saying this in the context na it's being shared online. So pwedeng ano kasi, 'di ba? Yung usual instances nito, lalo na pag celebrity, pag sinishare yan ay, oy, panoorin mo tong video ni ganito. Ano, nakita ko siya ganyan. Tapos ayan, share mo yan. So cyber libel, kasi there's already a written caption, no? Kasi cyber libel, ano yan eh, any statement, there needs to be a statement, whether it's oral or written, ganyan. So yung sharing of video, kung video at video lang, medyo ano siya, malabo. Pero kung the manner of sharing, no, it can be covered by yung cyber libel. But if it's sharing of the video alone, that's Anti-Photo and Video Voyeurism. And then you also have yung recent na Safe Spaces Act natin, and then Anti-Cybercrime Prevention Act, no, for identity theft. Because your photos online, that's how they use, diba, deepfake technology. They get photos of you ng different angles, and then they get videos also. And then they create parang an AI version. Tapos ine-edit nila, nilalagay nila doon. So pwedeng ganun siya, identity theft or non-consensual use of your photos or videos online. That's a violation of the Safe Spaces Act or the Cybercrime Prevention Act. So again, ito yung mga options natin. Violation of Anti-Photo and Video Voyeurism, libel, cyber libel, Safe Spaces Act, or the Anti-Cybercrime Prevention Act. You can also file, ito pala, I've been saying yung mga options nyo for criminal cases. But we also have a civil case option. What is a civil case option? Kasi usually, in any instance, no, we have 3 possible remedies. Not all are available, but ayan nga, 3 possible remedies. You have your criminal case, your civil case, or your administrative case. Yung criminal, yan yung kanina pa natin pinag-uusapan. Yung mga punishable by imprisonment, you file with the prosecutor. Yung administrative, what do you call this? Yung administrative case, yan yung, for example, institution, like pwedeng sa workplace or sa school, yung mga administrative complaint lang na usually parang ano lang din, na administrative bodies yung nakakapag-implement of whatever penalty, and then very informal hearing, yung mga ganyan. Civil case, it's more of a private option, in that usually ang nakukuha kasi dito is monetary compensation. Hindi dahil namimera ang survivors, no, but there are real consequences that require monetary compensation. Even when criminal, when you file a criminal case, yung civil aspect is deemed instituted with a criminal. So pag nakikita kayo, hindi lang conviction, pag naglabas ng court order convicting, hindi lang yon yung part ng order. Meron din dyan that the accused is directed to pay 500,000 in actual damages to whoever. And 500,000 as parang exemplary moral damages, mga ganyan. So civil aspect yon. You can also file a civil case without a criminal case. That's what I'm saying. Na pwede kang, for example, dahil kasi celebrity to I would assume merong reputation that's besmirched, no? Tapos try yun i-compensate through monetary means. That's also a very real option for survivors. So pwede kayo mag-file ng complaint for damages with the court also. But this time, hindi yan dadaan sa OCP. You file it directly with the court since civil case lang siya. I think merong sorry, nakita ko lang, no? There's a question if the Data Privacy Act can also apply. Yes, but these are, there's a reason why I'm recommending itong mga remedies. More because ang hinahabol ko dito ay yung pinaka-grave and commensurate punishment, no, for the crime. Kasi even the safe spaces, I would recommend it as a medyo third option, ganyan. Unahin natin yung mga una kasi merong mga laws na mas swak talaga dun sa crime and mas commensurate yung penalties under the law. So yung safe spaces, for example, it's a very good law in that it addresses many forms of harassment or violence that weren't addressed before. But I would say one thing about it is that medyo mas mababa ang penalties under that law as opposed to other laws. For example, like sabihin natin, Anti-Photo and Video Voyeurism or yun, Anti-Child Abuse Act, yung mga ganito. So minsan, pagdating dun sa pag-uwi ng options natin, isa rin to dun sa mga things that we discuss with clients na baka mas gusto natin tong option na to because it directly addresses and at the same time mas mataas yung penalty. And pagka ganun kasi, 'di ba? Baka yung deterring factor din ay mas malakas din for future cases also. Ayan.
All right, sige po. Thank you for shedding light. There are also other questions, but we can do that na din later on sa Q&A, no? Kasi we're also, I think, in the fourth case na, so we'll kind of finish na around these. But it's good to know, kasi ngayon, nakita ko na involved na, for example, yung cyber libel and even identity theft. Pag mga deepfake na videos, I think napaka-importante nung principle na nabanggit nyo kanina, Attorney Alex, na sinishare siya as you. So parang important talaga yung na-detail din na ma-capture when we think about digital voyeurism. Especially dito kasi deepfake na siya. So even us, medyo nakakawindang din yung cases na parang grabe din na ginagamitan yung supposedly technology na for advancement and yet it's here being used for to perpetrate violence kasi ayun. And then na-mention nyo na kanina na this happens to celebrities. Actually, yes. Parang we have mapped couple of cases na women celebrities din talaga yung parang dito namin nakita yung pag-surface nitong paggagamit ng deepfake to pag-perpetuate. So, ayun. Thanks for that. Ayun. So far we have those. And then you also brought up yung possibility, about the admin and civil case aside from the criminal way of legal remedies. So there's one. I will thank you then, by the way, for her answering the initial questions and then my questions as well as we go. I will move on now to the next case. So ito, the title is PH Indian nabbed for nude pics blackmail. So ito siya. A foreign national met two ladies, so magkapatid sila, aged 18 and 14 years old on Facebook. The suspect and the elder victim soon entered into a relationship. The suspect asked for her nude photos, and when the victim declined, he came up with edited, purported naked pictures of the 18-year-old, which he threatened to post on social media if she did not give him a real nude photo of hers. So the suspect reportedly threatened to kill yung kapatid ng victim survivor if she will not give in to his demand. So ito, we included this one kasi we are not sure if how big of a factor ba yung foreigner yung perpetrator, or dito parang yung sense of parang transnational na yung case or what? So yeah, go ahead, Attorney Alex. What can you share about this one po?
Okay. Ito, sige, doon muna tayo sa what laws are available, no? Ano yung mga nasasagi niya. Dalawa yung nakita ko dito. Number one is yung BAUC, Anti-Violence Against Women and Children Act. Pangalawa, mamaya babalik tayo dun sa grave threats. Doon muna tayo sa BAUC. Ano muna siya? Nabanggit ko siya kasi yung BAUC comes into play, dalawa yan eh. If merong relationship, for example, may perpetrator, may survivor, if itong dalawang tao na to, they have a sexual or dating relationship, that's covered by the VAUC, Anti-VAUC Act. Yung second element is if the perpetrator commits any form of abuse, any of the 4 abuses under the law, Anti-VAUC Act, no, against the survivor. Ano tong 4 kinds of abuses na to? There's the sexual abuse. Ano may examples niyan? Rape, yung sexual assault kanina nabanggit ko, any form of yung mga acts of lasciviousness, yung mga forcing your partner to engage in pornography or masturbation, whatever, sexual abuse. Second form of abuse is psychological. So pwedeng intimidation, any form of psychological abuse, yung mga intimidating, threatening, mga ganyan, kasama yan dyan. Yung pangatlo ay economic abuse. Yung economic ay, ito I think ang lesser known form of abuse under the Anti-VAUC Act, no? Ito yung, for example, pagka hino-hostage ng partner mo yung pera mo, hino-hostage na yung sweldo mo, ganyan, kailangan i-surrender mo sa kanya, siya magde-decide kung ano yung mga pwede mong paggastusan, mga ganyan. Kailangan may consent niya if you wanna engage in a parang an activity that produces profit, yung mga ganyan. That's economic abuse. Yung fourth kind of abuse is physical. I think merong case, no, today na lumabas regarding this, yung mga pambubugbog, yan, yung mga any infliction of physical harm, pasok yan dyan. So those are the 4 kinds of abuse. Now, again, balik ako, i-clarify ko lang, if a person commits any of those 4 forms of abuses under the Anti-VAUC Act, that is covered, but only if the perpetrator is in a dating or sexual relationship with the survivor. So, for example, if nag-commit ka ng physical abuse against a woman na hindi mo naman karelasyon, ay kaibigan mo lang or kapitbahay mo, hindi yan Anti-VAUC Act. That's still considered as serious physical injuries, for example, under the law. So, hindi lang siya papasok doon, but it doesn't mean that it's not unlawful. Ngayon, nabanggit ko to because the problem states, no, that they entered into a relationship. Now, that fact in itself, that's a go signal for the application of the Anti-VAUC Act. And then subsequently, nag-commit siya ng form of abuse, yung pag-i-intimidate, no, pag-threaten dun sa partner niya na bigyan mo ako ng nude photos, kundi sasaktan ko yung kapatid mo. That can be considered as psychological abuse, potentially sexual abuse, no? That's considered also. So that's Anti-VAUC Act. Yung second na nabanggit ko, we've talked about this earlier, yung grave threats. It's threatening to commit an act that is unlawful against a person to force this person to do some other thing for you. So dito, in that case, that's forcing the 18-year-old, no, to send a nude photo. Otherwise, papatayin yung mas bata niyang kapatid. That's grave threats. So that's punishable also. Now, you're going into your question na how is this treated since foreign national? Our criminal laws are yung jurisdictional ang venue. What do I mean by that? Meaning, if you commit it in Philippine jurisdiction, meaning in our country or yung mga spaces considered as Philippine jurisdiction, kunyari sa ibang bansa, pero nasa embassy ka, nasa consular office ka, or nasa Philippine ship ka, ganyan. That's considered Philippine jurisdiction. if you commit any crime, any form of crime, dun sa jurisdiction ng Philippines, regardless of your nationality, you will be covered by our criminal laws. So itong si foreign national will still be covered by our criminal laws, meaning he will have to be tried here in the Philippines. If ang committed violation against our laws, he will have to be held liable for it. Minsan meron lang parang playing into factors na mga convention, ganyan, or mga political na in a sense na relationship with ganyan. Tapos they requested that parang marami tayong ganyan, di ba? Mga against US nationals that they requested that this person be detained with the US or trial be conducted there, mga ganyan. Those are political things na. But the thing, yung what stands is, or at least yung general rule is, if they committed here, regardless of nationality, they will be covered.
I see. Thank you so much for that. Actually, Miss Lisa also raised the same question then, no, if the case is transboundary in nature daw. So how can the victim survivor daw go after the perpetrator of violence? So I guess it applies then no, yung same process na you have to have a documentation, you have to report to the city prosecutor,
Yes.
and then they can help investigate kung paano matatrack yung perpetrator po.
Well, if nandito siya, you need to file agad. So it's pupunta again, ano siya, with the Office of the City Prosecutor. Once na makarating to dun sa court, mag-issue ng warrant of arrest, and then kailangan ikulong or hulihin tong foreign national. And then usually if bailable offense siya, this foreign national will be allowed to post bail. So magbabayad siya for provisional liberty. Pero merong may ano yon, tawag dito, meron siyang may requirements or merong qualification ang kanyang provisional liberty, no? Merong mga requirements ng korte na kailangan ganyan, dito ka lang. Pwede kang pwede kang wala sa kulungan pero hindi ka pwede umalis, dito ka lang. Pag pinatawag ka ng korte, kailangan magpakita, otherwise mare-revoke yung bail mo, tapos ikukulong ka, tapos doon ka habang magta-trial. Yung mga nakikita kong cases doon sa against foreign nationals, if it's bailable may mga ganyang conditions that they can't leave the Philippines. If they want to leave the Philippines, they have to apply for motion for authority to travel. And minsan, dinedeny siya ng court, lalo na pag foreign national, kasi sinasabi ng court ay flight risk. Meaning, lalo na kung wala silang tie sa Philippines, napadaan lang sila dito. Na parang kung wala silang tirahan dito, hindi naman sila foreign national pa, parang inisip ng korte, what are the chances, no? If I allow this person to travel, baka hindi na yung bumalik dito. Then it becomes more complicated. Because if this person gets to another country, mas mahirap siyang habulin doon. Talaga, practically speaking, it's very, very difficult. And sometimes other countries do not cooperate with us, meaning they do not help us track this person. So the remedy really is to keep this person here. Kaya important na if a foreign national commits the crime, kailangan mahuli siya agad. And then ma-issuean siya agad ng warrant of arrest para at least applicable agad if this person posts bail, ay applicable agad yung restrictions ng court.
Okay. I just have a clarification then. So halimbawa so yung na-share nyo kanina din is about if it's committed in Philippine jurisdiction. But how about like if ako yung victim survivor, I'm a Filipina here in the Philippines, but yung perpetrator is abroad? May anything ba around that?
Again, as long as the crime, we'll have to delineate If the crime is committed in Philippine jurisdiction, it is covered by our criminal laws. But if the crime is committed there, na kung nasaan man si foreign national, then hindi natin hawak yon. Does that answer question? Or I think ang mas tanong ay, what if may crime na committed here, covered by our criminal laws, tapos nandun sa ibang bansa?
Yes.
That becomes more complicated. Kaya ang hirap nung, for example, yung mga nakikita natin ng ganito, mga cyber sex dens. Minsan ang operators ay outside of Philippine jurisdiction, but they peddle here. That becomes difficult ang immediate remedy is still to file the complaint, and then a warrant of arrest will be issued, meaning pagka nag-attempt itong person na to come into Philippine jurisdiction, ay
Okay.
huhulihin na siya agad. Paglapag niyan sa airport, huhulihin yan agad. So yung mga ganon. Mahirap lang talaga yung implementation aspect nun. If talagang out of reach talaga siya, meaning
Right.
wala siya sa Pilipinas, wala siyang balak bumisita dito or sa any place covered by our jurisdiction, then that becomes really more complicated. But at least the warrant of arrest is standing. And then yung implementation, if we want to cooperate with other states, so for them to help us track or for them to help us arrest, ganyan, matter of ano na yan, political affairs.
Alright. Oo nga. So it really, for this one, may elements talaga of na need around international cooperation. And nabanggit nyo kanina of having to track, and then I feel like it also plays into sa mga entrapment operation. Medyo nakikita namin to usually yun yung parang action din na ginagawa ng law enforcement to track the perpetrator. Makes sense kasi may mga ilang report din kami na napamap na yung mga cases, for example ng OSAIC, it's not really from, for example, like sa barangay na nagre-report sa law enforcement, but more of tip siya from abroad na meron kaming suspected na ganito na nangyayari diyan. So parang mga ganun. So kind of at least dito parang mas nasi-shed light on gaano rin ka-complicated as you said kanina yung mga ganitong kaso. So ayun, I'll head on now to our last case actually, and then we'll proceed to the question and answer. So again, please do ask questions. You can chat it sa box. Meron na po kami nakita kanina. We will go through it. I will now read yung last case natin, no? So this one is the case of Grace. So isa po itong article sa PCIJ, no? So ito naman, Grace is a high school student and she received information that nude images of her were circulating in the school. The images and videos were taken when she was 16 and was dating a senior in her school. He was 18. He asked for her naked photos at first. She obliged but didn't want to include her face. He insisted. When they started having sex, he persuaded her to film the act too. She remembered agreeing in one instance, but another video she was shown came as a surprise. I had no idea na he took a video of me, sabi niya. So when they got a word about my scandal, they didn't treat me the same anymore, she said about school officials. Grace received messages from many strangers. Some continued to harass long after her videos were first uploaded. So yes, Attorney Alex, you can go ahead and share your insights then about this one.
Sige. Yung mga immediate laws, no? First is yung, of course, Anti-Photo and Video Voyeurism Act. We've discussed this since kanina, since may non-consensual sharing of the photo, kahit na shinare niya initially, no, dun sa boyfriend. So again, with consent yung taking of the photo, but non-consensual yung sharing, that's still a violation. And then meron pa dito na sure, consensual yung ibang taking of the video, pero may isa na hindi niya maalala, na mukhang hindi siya nag-consent doon. So that's violation of anti-photo and video voyeurism. Next is anti-child pornography. Since 16, no, so minor, under age of 18, she is still covered by the Anti-Child Abuse Act or the Anti-Child Pornography Act. Since this is material na with sexual subject or yung sexual yung nature nung material, that can be considered as a form of child pornography that's completely prohibited. Actually, later I'll go to that, no, na how this makes yung what do you call this, yung institution ng crime more, or yung filing ng complaint easier pagka child pornography yung subject involved. We'll go to that later, but again, that can be covered. Yung next is possible, although sabi kasi dito is 16, but ito lang, ay sabihin ko lang, if it's under 16 nabanggitan natin to kanina, since the age of sexual consent was increased to 16, meaning if a person under the age of 16 has sexual intercourse with another person, that can be considered rape, whether it's non-consensual or consensual. Kasi, again, the law presumes that you cannot give sexual consent if you're under the age of 16. So, statutory rape siya agad. So, ito, baka lang. Pero sabi kasi dito sa problem is 16 na siya. So, baka hindi siya covered dun sa statutory rape. But again, just in case may under 16. So, we know what it is. Yung next is yung sa Safe Spaces Act. Pwede rin yon, specific to yung sending messages, ganyan, na sexual in nature, or yung mga pambabastos, ganyan, pang-aalok, or whatever, mga sexual comments, ganyan, made online, that's covered by yung online gender-based sexual harassment under the Safe Spaces Act. And then, I think meron kasing factor dito na mukhang may administrative aspect. I say this because mukhang pinag-initan ng school, no? Ito, I think, option na for the survivor to go to make an administrative case against yung mga teachers, ganyan, na possibly employing discriminatory acts, ganyan, yung mga officials. Kasi di ba parang mukhang pinag-iinitan na siya. That's also an option. Now, going back dun sa sinabi ko, how does yung child pornography content make yung institution of complaints easier? It's because, again, remember, in most cases, in most criminal acts, the only person who can file a complaint is the survivor. Except, di ba, if in some cases na public or if it's committed against a child. So if it's child pornography or Anti-Child Abuse Act ang papasok, ito yung sabi natin kanina na any 3 persons, concerned citizens, can file a complaint for this person. So, ibig sabihin, if mukhang sa picture pa lang circulating or video, nakita ko na, wait, mukhang bata, mukhang minor yung involved, I can already file with 2 other people, I can already file a complaint for child pornography or Anti-Child Abuse Act. One notable provision ng anti-child pornography is the person doesn't even have to be a minor. Meaning, if the picture or the video is being packaged na to make this person look like a minor, ibig sabihin, pwede siyang i-cover kasi that's still considered as child pornography. So kahit sabihin natin mukhang 19 years old na yan, pero pinagmumuha siya deliberately na bata or yung packaging sa kanya dun sa photo or video ay bata, ano pa rin siya, still considered as child pornography. And actually, mas may ngipin yung batas na to because yung yung possession, kahit mapadaan lang, makita sa phone mo na parang nag-access ka ng link, ganyan, containing child pornography, that's already punishable. So we need to be very careful. Kaya nasabi ko kanina, if you want to get receipts, ganyan, screenshots, ingat lang kayo sa siniscreenshot nyo. You can't store photos or videos of anything, yung mga subject photos or videos. Hindi pwede kasi pwede rin kayo makasuhan ng possession of child pornography. So, doon lang tayo sa surrounding circumstances. So again, options, violation of Anti-Photo and Video Voyeurism Act, violation of Anti-Child Pornography, or Anti-Child Abuse Act, pwedeng rape, statutory rape if this girl is under the age of 16, pwedeng administrative complaint against the school officials kasi discriminatory yung act, no? Pwede rin yung civil, pwedeng violation of the Safe Spaces Act. Yan.
Ayun, thank you so much. So ayun, ngayon ko lang nalaman na even yung packaging na na-mention nyo for a material na making it look like the person there is a minor is actually punishable by law. So I think that's a very important thing to note as well. So yeah, actually that's our last case. So I'll proceed now to the Q&A, no, because we have some questions here. And yeah, again, for anyone na gusto pang maglaro din, you feel free to chat lang din po, no? So, Ayun, Miss Emilia Lastica Ternura has a question. Sabi niya, pwede po ba kaming, hi, good evening ma'am, mag-file ng child abuse case on behalf of the complainant kung ang incident ay nangyari 3 years ago nung minor pa siya?
Yes po. Ang ano naman, ang reckoning period natin is when the incident or the crime happened. So kasi 'di ba ang pinapunish natin, for example, especially for the Anti-Child Abuse Act, was the act of abusing a child. So ibig sabihin kahit lumaki na yung bata, but still that act stands kasi nangyari siya naambuso ng bata So kahit po lumaki na, kasi understandable most survivors don't file right away. It takes them a few years to be able to file. So that will still be an option. It doesn't matter if hindi na siya minor. Basta as long as the act happened when this person was still a minor. Now, I'll just jump to another usual na question po regarding this. Medyo nasagi nyo yung 3 years ganyan. Ang usual question kasi ay, paano pagka ilang taon na ang nakalipas? Pwede pa rin ba tayong magsampa ng kaso? What I can say is different laws, different crimes have different prescriptive periods. Yung ibig po sabihin natin sa prescriptive period, this is yung period nyo to be able to file a case, bali yung deadline niya. Hindi po yan agaran kasi that's the usual question of some of our clients, ganyan na, paano kung isang taon ay nakalipas, pwede pa ba ako mag-file or sunog na ba yung kaso? Not necessarily. Matagal usually ang prescriptive period minsan may mga 4 years, may 10 years, for rape it's 20 years. It depends on the penalty. Pag mas malaki yung penalty, mas mahaba yung prescriptive period, and then vice versa. So hindi naman kailangan na nangyari ngayon ay kailangan next week ma-file na natin. We usually have a few years naman. So, and we added reassurance also to survivors if you're not able to file because it's really difficult. Minsan, di ba, we encourage clients first na, nabanggit ko kanina, maybe avail of psychosocial services first. We need to address, that's the first concern actually. Our first concern is address nyo muna yung trauma, possible trauma. And then i-gauge, we need a go signal from your psychologist or the psychosocial therapist, ganyan. We need a go signal na dun sa willingness and readiness emotionally and psychologically of the client to lodge a complaint. Kasi minsan ay nauunahan we jump the gun. Of course, we want to file a complaint agad. We want to correct injustice, ganyan. Pero minsan kasi may adverse effects to the complainant na hindi siya ready pa emotionally. So, kailangan muna, we ask them to take time first, ganyan, regroup muna, minsan family, ganyan, kasi they want to involve the family, they need the support system. It really takes time and that's okay. Yung usual tip lang po namin ay nabanggit ko kanina, resibo kung kaya. Kasi ayun nga, na what if hindi pa ako ready ngayon, in 3 years I become ready, then that will be helpful. But again, reassurance ko rin kanina, if we're not able to get evidence written or object evidence, that's fine. Narration will suffice, but it will greatly help, although not required. So, yun po, just to answer your question.
Ayan.
Unmute po.
Sorry po, follow up lang po sana. Kasi di ba recently lang na-approve yung age ng consent at 16. Will it be applicable even if the incident happened way before the approval of the law? Raising the age of consent.
Most laws po kasi are what do you call this? Prescriptive ang application, meaning hindi tayo pwede maging retroactive dun sa application ng batas. Kasi especially since may rights din yung accused, ang kasama po dun ay yung pag-apply ng laws na beneficial to the accused as much as possible, just to balance yung rights. Hindi ibig sabihin ito ay pinapalaya natin sila or we're letting them get off easy. It's just that, it would be unfair na to apply laws to them retroactively na hindi pa naman nila alam na may ganon. But the thing is, even if we can't retroactively apply itong law, raising the age of sexual consent to 16, If it's really non-consensual, alam mo yun, we can still file a case for rape. Ang natatanggal lang naman po doon ay yung what do you call this? Yung added advantage of not having to prove consent anymore or lack of consent. Kasi ang statutory rape po, di ba, yung automatic. Basta under 12 ka or under 16, wala tayong pake kung nag-consent yan o hindi, ay diretso yan rape. It just removes that added ease, no, pagdating sa trial of having to prove that, but we can still file a case naman for rape.
Salamat po.
Ayan. Thank you din po, Ms. Emilia, for raising the question. Ayun, additional knowledge on that as well, on the prescriptive period, yun pala, no? May may time period kung saan we have to be mindful we have to be mindful rin of that. So ayun, I'll move on to the next question. So this one's from Ms. Alex and Valentin. Yung question po niya is, if aware na there was a video taken but was unable to verbally say na pumapayag sila, is that also non-consensual?
Yes. Ano lang talaga, what difference does it make? If may verbal na pag no, or pag tanggi, it just makes it easier to prove yung lack of consent. But as with most sexual violence cases, yung lack of yung verbal na what do you call this? Resistance, lack of verbal resistance or lack of physical resistance, it's not an element, it doesn't negate the crime. Meaning, ito, favorite I'll go into another crime, not just itong voyeurism, but for example, even with sexual violence or rape, yung pag hindi ka nakatanggi, hindi mo nasabi na ayoko or no, I'm not giving my consent, or hindi ka nakalaban, hindi ka nakasigaw, hindi ka nakatakbo, it doesn't matter. It doesn't negate yung rape as a crime. As long as sa loob mo ay alam mong hindi ka nag-consent or non-consensual siya, ay rape pa rin siya, or in this particular case, in your question, it's still voyeurism. So it doesn't matter. Again, the only difference it makes is that it will only just make it easier to prove na walang consent. But that doesn't mean that we can still prove yung lack of consent through, if you say so, di ba? If nagkakasuhan na and then you say in your narration, wala talaga akong consent. Na nakita ko yung pwede kasing nakita ko yung binibidyohan ako, pero natakot kasi ako to say anything ganyan. Kasi baka pagka tumanggi ako or parang nagreklamo ako, baka saktan ako or baka ako nang gawin sa akin, or may mga ganun There's so many things that can go on in your head. So, it's you can still, it doesn't negate the crime. So it doesn't matter. It just makes it easier to prove. Yun.
Ayan. So hopefully ay nasagot din yung tanong ni Ms. Alex. So thank you, Attorney Alex, then for shedding light on that. So far, we don't have any more questions, but I do have a clarification. For example, Attorney Alex, kasi correct me if I'm wrong, kahit yung storage, nabanggit nyo kanina is punishable by law. If ever, halimbawa na hindi ko alam na nasa phone ko siya, halimbawa finorward sa akin, tas like, I didn't even view it, I didn't even click on it, is that something na punishable then?
Not necessarily. If for example hindi mo talaga alam, I'm assuming yung possible scenario nito ay may finorward sa'yo. Tapos hindi mo binuksan yung message at all. Pwede mo kasing defense yun that you weren't aware that it was sent to you. You did not copy, you did not reproduce, you did not secure copies. It was sent to you. You did not even know na parang hindi mo nga binuksan yung link or anything. You can say that as a defense. So okay lang naman yun. I understand the concern kasi maraming ganyan online na nag-circulate mga nagpo-forward na mga links.
Yes, oo. It just reminded me dun sa mga proliferation din sa group chats. we have and thank you Attorney Alex for shedding light on that. So yan at least naklaro na sa akin no how ano yung extent ng involvement pag ganun. Siguro ito na lang yung last question no. So it's again from Miss Emilia. So she asks in cases when there is a Google Drive where the survivor was asked to save the files, would it be possible to ask the respondent to purge the files?
In cases, Google Drive, survivors asked to save the files.
Clarify ko po yung question. Kasi po, yung complainant namin was given the Google file and password of the respondent. And doon niya sinisave yung files, no? So, tinatreaten siya, tapos kailangan niya gawin yung videos and or photos, tapos save niya ron. Sabi ng respondent, wala na raw yung mga files na yun kasi ang agreement nila ay buburahin nila right after ma-enjoy. But I'm worried that the respondent actually kept them and will later sell them. No? So yun po yung worry ko. And malakas yung kutob ko na baka mangyari yun later. So wala kaming proof na na-store niya or nasa kanya pa. No? Pero yun lang, siguro hindi siya pwede, but could we work our way around having, you know, these files purged if they're there? Kaya.
Yes. Actually, merong related question to this yung writ of habeas data. That's an option. If you have reasonable, if you have reason to believe na sinave pa rin yung files na hindi pinurge, you can file a petition for an issuance of writ of habeas data. How this is done operationally, if mag-succeed yung petition and the writ is issued, pwede kasing i-check, parang may search na magaganap. And then if that they come across those files, they will delete it. The court can direct that. So pwede yon. You will just have to allege in yung petition ganyan yung circumstances why you have reason to believe. Pwede yon. And then for yung sa ano naman, yung takot na i-share, of course if that happens ganyan ay pwede rin sila maging liable for the anti-photo video voyeurism if that happens. And then we also have yung kanina na pag-usapan na extrajudicial remedies na pwedeng yung stopncii.org ganyan just to prevent yung sharing, posting online or even storing in mga social media na mga platforms, ganyan, yung mga sinishare group chats or groups, Facebook groups or something, pwede rin yon. But in terms of legal, you can file that petition to have that done. What else actually? If for example, I haven't seen this in action, but in legally, I think theoretically this is also possible. If yung for example, if pasok to sa Anti-Vowsy Act, meron kasing mga protection orders na remedies available under the Act. Yung Barangay Protection Order, Temporary Protection Order, Permanent Protection Order, which can be issued by either the barangay or the courts. That can be included. If kasama dun yung threat na to store the photos and then to later on share them, pwedeng ipasok dun sa scope ng protection order yung to stop the perpetrator from doing that. Otherwise ay yun mababiolate na yung protection order. That's also possible aside from yung petition for writ of habeas data.
Okay, so hopefully that answers Miss Amelia's concern as well. And that will be our last Q&A question for this one. So ayun, actually we can head on to unwrap all of the discussion. I really learned a lot. It's it's really interesting, I think, to even go and study law talaga. And as hopefully naging useful itong discussion for everyone who might be interested to look into the crime that is digital voyeurism. And maybe soon in the future we can talk about this more, no, sa another session. Yeah, so I think I'll just kind of go through a very, very important things that I learned. For example, yung importance talaga ng consent across the process of intimacy online, especially na very ano na talaga ang technology ngayon. And yun, we have existing laws that do address this. Kailangan talaga na knowledgeable tayo when we want to help as well. So ayun, really helpful, and thank you again, Attorney Alex, for shedding light on these cases. So ilan lang to, no, na mga cases. Kanina may na-flash ako on references just to say na these are real. And if you want to look into the cases, yan, reported talaga po siya sa media. So ito po sila. That's it. Before we go and end this discussion, Attorney Alex, would you want to invite them po sa mga any activities?
Yes, we'll be announcing yung roster of activities dun sa mga different organizations ko, no. I won't go to them in detail muna. We'll be posting more information on it, but meantime, please do follow our accounts. Yung una yung sa Youth Against Sexual Harassment, which I mentioned earlier. You can find us on Facebook. And then we offer services. Yung Yash has a pool of lawyers, no? If you have any concerns, kanyan, if you know any survivors na who need legal assistance, we can help with that. We also have partner organizations offering yung mga different services, yung nabanggit ko kanina, like Lunas Collective and Kerry. So pwede rin kaming, we can ano rin, refer you to them if ever. And then yung second org ko, it's a women's sports organization, yung Binibinis PH. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook also. It's the organization that manages yung ating women's ultimate national team. It's important because we recently launched a campaign against sexual violence and gender-based discrimination in sports. So meron din kami mga roster of activities for Women's Month. So we'll keep you posted. Just follow our pages, please. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And yan, we will also plug from our end, FMA, we will be having activity as well. So we have for your page, a talk on news reporting on TikTok. This will be next week naman, no? So ayan, mag-register po tayo. This is in partnership with more organizations as well, hindi lang FMA. So ayan po. It is also posted on our Facebook page. And yan, please also tune into our podcast. Ito yung na-share ko kanina. It's titled Anong Connect. We will also have yung audio format nito posted there as well. So abangan nyo po, and you can follow us on Spotify. So if you have any feedback, questions, or if you want to collaborate, maganda po itong usapin. Salamat po sa feedback. Sana po ay, again, naging useful siya and informative. We are also on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and we will be having discussions pa in the future. We also do Twitter Spaces din eh. So ayun, let's follow nyo po ang FMA online, and we will see you in our future activities. Last na po, no, we also have this monthly newsletter on issues about gender and ICT. So nasa social media din po namin kung paano mag-register dyan. It's called Gender Scoop. So you can find and register na lang po dyan sa newsletter. So ayun, maraming salamat po sa lahat, and good evening. We don't want to hold you. It's already Friday. So happy weekend po sa lahat. Attorney Alex, thank you so much po. And we will email you for mga post-event stuff. So maraming salamat po, and happy Friday to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Goodbye po. Hi, Lola H.